Hi, I'm Grant, and today I'm going to show you how you can control Cubase with a smartphone or tablet. In order to do this, we're going to need three pieces of free software: LoopMIDI, Python, and OpenStage Control. First thing you need is to download and install Python. I'm doing this on Windows. Other systems will have different installation methods, and if you use another operating system, then you'll know more about it than I do. It's a straightforward installation, and once it's done, you'll need to open a command prompt with admin rights. Then run an update with this command. All commands and links are detailed in the comments below. Once the update has completed, change into the Python directory, then run the command to install rtmidi. This package will enhance Python's MIDI capabilities and allow OSC to work. The first time I did this it failed, but I repeated the command and it worked. Then download LoopMIDI, install, and add a new MIDI port. Let's call it OSC. Then we download OSC, OpenStage Control. Again, I'm using Windows, but there's lots of different variants here for different operating systems. Uncompress, go into the folder that you've created, and then open up the OpenStage Control application. And that's it. We're ready to start putting in our settings. We're going to be running this locally, so the local IP address is 127.0.0.1, and we're running send of port 8000, and it'll be listening on port 7500. If you list the MIDI devices, then you'll be able to get the information that we need for the next step. OSC here is listed as input number 2 and output number 3. So under the MIDI field, we put in OSC, and then a colon, and then the input number, which is 2, and the output number, which is 3. Now this is where things start to fall into place. I've opened up an instance of Cubase, and what I'm going to do is show you how to set up OSC as a generic remote within Cubase. So we start off at Studio, and go to Studio Setup, click on Remote Devices, and just click the plus sign. From the drop-down menu, pick Generic Remote. MIDI input and MIDI output should provide you with the option of OSC, which is the port that we created earlier. You'll see that the generic remote populates with default settings, which saves us a lot of work and provides us with potential shortcuts to a lot of the main processes that we'll be using within Cubase, a lot of the common controls. What this means is we don't need to reinvent the wheel. But there's a lot of work to be done here. There's nothing to say that we have to use all of these. You could use some of them, you could use all of them, or you may find that you want to use some that aren't even listed here, which is very easy to do. But we'll start off with stop and play. If you've got a phone to hand, this might be a good time to take a photo of the screen, or to take a note of the details within this screen. Specifically, within stop, what we're looking at is the MIDI channel, which is 16, and the address, which is 2. We'll do the same for play. MIDI channel is 16, and the address is 4. Keep a note of that information. Let's open up Stage Control. There's the settings we put in earlier with the details of the address and the port, and the MIDI details that we put in as well. You can click List MIDI devices at any point. As long as your setup remains the same, the numbers won't change. But if you were to unplug, for example, a MIDI keyboard, you might find that these numbers change for everything else. As it is, 2 and 3 relate to the input and the output, so we're all good to go. We start the server. And let's start a new session. Let's start off with a button. Add widget, basics, button. Once you've got the button selected, all of the options on the right will relate to the button. We're going to start by creating a stop button. For the sake of consistency, the ID I usually start with the address number, which in the case of the stop button was 2. And then I put the command, which is stop. As I change that, you'll see it changes the name of the button, which is quite ugly, but we'll get to change it later on. If we go down to geometry, if we change the value, you can see it changes the position of the button. You can also change the position of the button manually. But if you're getting to the stage where you're creating lots of buttons, you might find that you do want to get mathematical about it, and these can come in handy at that stage. Changing the style is something that you'll want to do as well if you're creating lots of different buttons. For example, having different categories as different colours can help a cluttered screen look a lot clearer. This is also where we find the option to change the label. At the moment it's set to auto, meaning that the name of the button is automatically the ID. We don't want that. So we can just overtype that and the name of the button changes. A stop button isn't a toggle button. It's a tap, and you can see that there's 3 different modes of button: toggle, push, and tap. Finally, the OSC command section. This is where we're going to tell OSC what we want this button to do. Under address, just type / and then control. Pre-args is where we're going to tell OSC the channel number and the address that we want this button to send data to when it's pressed. To do this, you do an open square bracket, the channel number, which is 16, the address, and we took a note of that. It was 2 for the stop button, and then we close it. If you press the tab button, it'll format it, and then it takes us down to type tags, to lowercase letter I, and for decimals, no decimals needed, 0. Target, MIDI, :OSC. And that's us set up a stop button. We can do the same for a play button. So the ID would be 4, because that was the address for play. Under style, we change the label to play. And again, put in the details here: / control, channel 16, address 4, type tags I, decimal 0, and target MIDI OSC. Now we're still in editor mode here, but we can come out of it just by pressing Ctrl and E or selecting that from the menu. We're full screen here, but we can resize just to demonstrate what we've done. So here's Cubase, and we've got OSC open. So let's try out the buttons and press play. We can see it's playing, and if we press stop, it stops. So we've successfully set up the remote control. With a bit of practice, you can get a control that looks like this. When you're building, you'll notice that there are options for tabs, which is allowing you to have different screens, and containers, which allows you to put buttons inside them to create handy sections like I have here. Once you're at this stage, you can access the Open Stage Control server from other devices, as long as you've got your firewall settings correct. Here, for example, I've got OSC open up on a tablet. I can then use this tablet to control Cubase, which is great when you've got lots of different shortcuts right at your fingertips. Well, hopefully that's given you an idea of how you can set up your own tablet or smartphone to control Cubase, or even Ableton, any way that you want to. If you like the video, then please like and subscribe, and you'll get a wee notification when I make some more videos. Bye!